If you ever walk the quiet back roads, you might just meet this pair. They'll greet you like an old pal and will offer to help you in whatever way they can. And you will notice they are the very best of friends, the tiger and the boy with an odd-shaped head. And if you walk a mile with them, you're bound to question what circumstance could have brought such a pair together. Well, it's a story of one boy's unhealthy appetites, but it's also a tale of how sometimes good comes out of bad. This is the tale of Oliver French. Yes, that's him. You'd never miss him. As a boy, Oliver was a wrong 'un. He was nasty, cruel and mean. It's a scientific fact that we all have a bad gland. It occasionally flares up and causes us to do all sorts of horrid and inconsiderate things. Most parents keep it in check by feeding their children green vegetables and by making them do hard sums. But fate had dealt Oliver a terrible hand and equipped him with a huge and overactive bad gland, and no amount of cabbage and algebra was going to control that. But the worst, by far, of all Oliver's flawed character traits was how he picked at his food. Nothing was good enough. His poor mother indulged him, and no sooner had he turned up his nose at one lovingly prepared dish than she would present yet another, and another, and another. His mother despaired but never gave up. She cooked roasts, toasts and stew. But what Oliver craved most of all was a lightly seasoned zoo. And therein lay an issue. The nearest zoo was hours away, far too far to pop in for a snack. So when a circus came to town, Oliver grinned an evil grin and said, "That'll do." As he walked into the big top, the magic was overwhelming. But while the rest of the crowd drank in the atmosphere, Oliver decided to taste it in a very different way. All he could think was, dinner. He ate the performing poodles, and half the petting zoo. But when he tried to eat the tiger, it bit his head in two. A tiger's bite is going to pinch, but it missed his brain by at least an inch. It's hard to find an upside when half your head is gone, but from that fearsome wound, Ollie's bad gland flew and it splattered on the floor. The ringmaster was furious. He didn't need this kind of drama. Boy's head bitten in two by circus tiger wasn't the sort of newspaper headline he wanted. So he acted quickly. He was a man of action, after all. In 2 shakes of a dancing pony's tail, he'd whipped out his tools and whipped out the tiger's teeth. Bad publicity or no, the ringmaster was still a showman, and he knew that a toothless tiger doesn't pull in a crowd. So he left a single fang in the poor tiger's head. He knew it would catch the ringside lights, kid the world that the tiger still had bite, and may give the small ones half a fright. And Oliver, just what to do, his head completely split in two. Another of the ringmaster's favourite tricks was the bootlace stitch-up. So he grabbed some cord and, his hands a-blur, he closed the rift and pulled up his eye in a gruesome stitch. As the dust settled, they stood side by side, both their worlds changed in a moment. The only thing Oliver had known was how to be naughty and selfish, but with the bad gland gone, he had no desire to do that anymore. He thought the tiger was a splendid chap, and he was going to tag along with him. The only thing the tiger knew was the circus, but with his teeth gone, he didn't feel the need to roar and growl anymore. And that was basically his job, so he'd need something new to do. He'd often heard tales of businessmen. They travelled around wearing smart suits and shoes, but he wasn't sure what they did. No one appeared to know, but it sounded like a good way to pass the time. So they made a pact. Firstly, and most importantly, they'd get themselves some fancy clobber. Then they'd set out on the road. Their business would be to keep each other company, to see where the road took them, and to maybe be useful or helpful or both.